Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday mornings on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium. So you can find me there if you'd like to watch the show live and get to see me and my special guests. We get to talk about a topic relating to either spiritualism, mediumship, healing, today's family, or more. And it's always such a delight to share these beautiful spiritual conversations. I know that people write to me and tell me how much they are appreciating and really being very encouraged by the education that they receive through these shows. So if you're wanting to look back at the archive videos of the show, you can look at Willa White Medium and go to the videos tab, and you can scroll and watch to your heart's content. So you can like and share and follow. This will also be uploaded to YouTube channel, and it goes out on blogtalkradio.com/Lilydale Radio. I'm part of the Lilydale Radio family, and it's wonderful to see how many different shows happen throughout the week so that we can continue to share spirit with the world. And so those are the ways to tune in on Wednesdays with Willa. I also have some upcoming events that are wanting to let you know about. I'll be teaching development circles. I've expanded so that you have two options. One that starts tomorrow, Thursday, November 3rd, and that's a Thursday afternoon development circle so that you can learn to connect with spirit and to give and receive messages with other people. And then also on Monday nights, so a regular circle I've been having for years now, that's another opportunity for mediumship development, and that starts on November 7th. And then I also have an auras class that's coming up soon. So you can find out information about that on my website, willawhite.com. And I am delighted. I want to introduce my special guest today. She has been on my show before, and she's a fantastic representative of mediumship. And I can't speak enough about her so highly. Welcome to our show today, Suzanne Giesemann.
Hey, thank you, Willa. Great to be back on your show. Such great energy we share when we're together.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And one of the things that's so special about Suzanne is she does have an amazing background in more of what you consider the cerebral or the left brain, but she's able to merge that today in her mediumship. So just a little bit about Suzanne Giesemann. She is a former U.S. Navy commander who served as a commanding officer and aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And today she is an evidential medium and spiritual teacher, and she's authored many books, including those about Mavis Patilla and Janet Mahavik, who are her mentors from the past of learning mediumship. So those of you who know Mavis and know Janet, who passed in the last couple of months, you'll understand and appreciate Suzanne all the more for her.
Hey, and don't forget Anne Gaiman.
And Anne Gaiman, absolutely. Yeah. There's a wonderful book, The Priest and the Medium, that Suzanne Giesemann wrote, and I highly recommend that one. It's an entertaining read, and it's something that really is inspiring if you're a medium, and even if you're not a medium and you're just interested in spirit contact and how a person is able to merge that which is mediumship and spirit with living a human life, right?
That's right.
That's what it's all about. So yes, Suzanne's here on the show today, and our topic is being a pure channel for spirit. So we're going to be discussing that, and I know it's going to take us in so many beautiful directions today. What would you like to share with us today, Suzanne?
Wow, there's so much we could dive into with that topic, Willa, but as I hear it, I feel it's very important that we emphasize that we are here to be fully human. So being a medium doesn't mean we have to be perfect and be saintly. I'm reminded of, you mentioned Mavis Patilla, that we just had a beautiful, the opportunity to attend her memorial service, and they showed a picture of her with a quote of hers that just because you're a medium doesn't mean you have to be saintly. I can't remember exactly how she said it, but it showed her with a glass of wine and a cigarette,
That's true. She was definitely a smoker, and that human side came out.
Yeah, and I feel that that
Absolutely.
just makes us more well-rounded, and we can definitely relate to the people we work with and the spirit people who we bring through. So none of us is perfect, and yet the main point of that title of today's program is that we still can work on our own stuff and clear out anything that isn't aligned with love. Love is the bottom line.
Absolutely. Well stated. And it's something that those who love spiritualism understand. There's that sacred connection that we merge with this human experience. And you're like you said, it's not about being perfect per se, but is about practicing that presence of God, the divine, and knowing that it's part of our lives, and it's part of our tapestry of life that we're experiencing. And so often people in classes or with clients, they'll talk about they wish that they could have that they feel almost guilty that they don't have God more in their lives. And there are ways to do that, and it will help enhance not just your life, but your life with spirit.
Well, that's what changed my life. I got on this path after my stepdaughter Susan was struck and killed by lightning, and I was raised with no religion. I had a basic belief in a higher power, but it wasn't part of my life. Today, I choose to use all kinds of terms in addition to God so that I don't get trapped in this limited viewpoint of somebody separate from me, a person. Where I've come to be now is in relationship as an expression, all of us, of this creative force, this divine intelligence. Infinite intelligence is the term I first heard from Anne Gaiman back when I started diving into all of this. And I didn't understand it at first. I didn't understand the way Anne Gaiman taught it, her definition of God. But now I know that it's what breathes us. It's this loving, you can call it a being, but it's not a person. It's so much more than what we are. And to have that awareness that comes through sitting in the power regularly is transformational and is what helps make us that pure channel.
Yes, absolutely. Having that concept of the infinite intelligence is that term is used so that we understand that it is unlimited. Yeah. And that means it is showing up and present in all of us in limitless ways.
If we try to make God into a person only, then we definitely limit ourselves, because we couldn't be more than that. So if God is more than this, then we have the potential to express ourselves in ways we can't even imagine. And that's the point. We can't imagine how great all of us are and how great things can turn out when we put our trust in that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's such there's a comfort to that, but there's also this, that's too vast for me to understand. People get into that place of, that's almost too much mystery for me to comprehend. And the next thought that I usually have when I encounter that thought is that if I can't fully comprehend that part of it, all I have to do is go into acceptance.
Yeah.
That is moving into a faith that is bigger than me. I have to let bigger hands than mine hold this for me. And that there's a trust that starts to emerge in those thoughts and in those feelings and those sensations, and moving more into that sacred vibrational, that purity of thought and spirit.
Yes. And that's what opens us up and what carries us and what produces magical, wondrous moments when we do readings and connect with spirit, because the human side of us that thinks we're separate from this power, this source, says, well, I can't do that, or I can only do this much, or what if I fail? But when you just accept and allow, there is something that we can't even wrap our heads around that's guiding and organizing and designing this whole force. Notice that, guiding, organizing, designing, G-O-D. When we just accept and trust and allow that, it flows through us when we work, and that's when the miracles happen. Mm-hmm. We get outside ourselves, outside our doubts, and we realize we can't do this. We don't do this. It's done through us. That's the pure channel part. The channel is a vessel, and that's what we do. Like healers, they don't do the healing, it's channeled energy.
And there's a part of you that has to accept that you can't take credit for all that is transpiring and flowing through you, and just allowing yourself to be that channel, that vessel of the energy, so that you're an expression of the divine force, the unlimited source.
Yeah, if we take credit for anything, it's for getting out of the way and showing up and being courageous for doing something that's not a comfortable thing. It's a natural thing for humans to do, but not a comfortable thing for those who are in only human mode.
Yes, because it brings us to that word control. Right?
I know that word.
We all know that word of control. Who has control over this moment? I want to have control over this moment, especially sensitives. Because if you're sensitive, you can be hypersensitive to events and to people and situations energetically. And the next stage that happens after someone's a sensitive who goes hypersensitive, they become insensitive to others. Right? So there's a progression as it starts to amplify if we don't work on our own self-discipline and have control over how we're buffering energy with people and with situations. But so a sensitive tends to want to have control, and because then they don't have this overreaction that's occurring.
I've never heard that before, and it's intriguing to me. So you're saying we become hypersensitive and that turns into insensitive. Why is that?
If people become very hypersensitive, that means they become very offended by what other people are doing. They don't like it. It hurts too much to be around other people. So they start to almost like a porcupine. They're aggravated. They get to an aggravated state. So it behooves us as sensitives to really be conscious of how we're buffering energy with other people, so that we don't get into this, that hurt for me to feel that what someone else is going through, or the amplification of energy or anger. Let's say anger, right? If you're sensitive and you feel someone's anger, you feel it rattling around you to such a degree that it becomes all that you can feel. It's a reverberation, not just in those moments, but sometimes days, weeks, or years later. And so that's why it's important for people to be able to get into that space of the pure channel of spirit. It refreshes, it clears the space so that we don't hold on to those entanglements of thought and energy.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. I'd never seen it that way, about hypersensitivity turning to insensitive, as you defined it, as defensive and also shut off. I love that. I love that we're always learning from each other. Yeah. So I can see times when I've gotten defensive, and I always know that points to ego. And I always look at where did that come from, but I never saw it as coming from this natural hypersensitivity of being asensitive. So that'll help me to be a little easier on myself, and hopefully everybody else who's listening.
Yes, because when you get to the insensitive territory, it's almost like you just want to say enough already, and you want to be in the power place, right? You want to be in the power place of and volcano over everybody, because you've just had it up to here. So here, the nice, sweet person has all of a sudden become something else because they weren't able to handle and contain energy. So that's where, when you're working as a medium or as a healer, or just as a person wanting to spiritually unfold, when you're working through that space of how to deal with energy and emotions that are uncomfortable for you, going to the God source, to that infinite intelligence is so important. So that you don't hang on to so much of the emotion, so much of the energy, so much of someone else's anger, because it's like a domino effect, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what they say for moms, right? They say if mom is not happy, no one's happy, kind of thing. Because the mother usually sets the tone in a family with how she deals with events.
Well, the point you made there about, the defensiveness and all, and it's so important for us to pay attention whenever we feel discomfort. I just upgraded my language the other day. I find it so important to use the right words so that we uplift ourselves with our vocabulary. And one word that I haven't liked at all is negative, as in that's a negative emotion, that's negative energy. And I've just found the perfect replacement for that in uncomfortable, because that's how it comes through. Those feelings, they're not bad, they're just indicators that you're out of balance or out of alignment with love. So that uncomfortable feeling we get when we're hypersensitive or not the purest channel is just an indicator. And when we can take notice of that and clear it out, give it the attention it needs and see where it's coming from, love ourselves anyway and clear it out, that is such a gift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's lean into that, clearing it out and becoming that pure channel for spirit. How do you do those things, Suzanne?
Oh my gosh. Well, yesterday somebody sent me an email. It's somebody in another country who sends me funny things quite often. And I opened it and there were 3 videos in it. And the first one was very interesting. It wasn't funny. It was enlightening and interesting. And the second one I watched, and it was not funny. It was serious. It knocked me off balance more than anything I have watched in a long time. And my husband said, "Whoa, that's not you to be so upset." And I said, "I know. I normally am just even keeled." And we both looked at each other and he said, "You got to clear your chakras." I said, "That's where I'm heading." He said, "Why don't you go sit on the bed and take the dogs with you?" Like extra good, loving energy. And that's what I did. I go to chakra balancing when I'm off balance big time. And I have a free meditation on my website called the 10-minute transformation. It's also on YouTube. I use my own recorded meditation because the music is channeled from Frederick Delarue to match the words. And 10 minutes later, I was totally back to normal. If I hadn't had that tool, I probably would have been out of sorts all day. I also use various methods for clearing the energy, sage spray, and I know that there are people are concerned about misappropriation of sage, but when used with the right intention, it's a very wonderful modality. Singing, getting out in nature, anything you can do to refresh your energy is always helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are definitely some of my favorites. Getting out in nature, having a walk, that fresh air. It's as if everything that might have been cluttered in the head area is free.
Mm-hmm. Instantly.
And all that is beauty and nature and splendor fills that space.
And you have that beautiful Lake Casadega right there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just walk out your door and you have beautiful nature. I have the marshes in South Carolina right here outside. It's just, I sometimes when I haven't been outside yet in a day, we get out pretty regularly to walk our dogs, but just the moment I step out the door, it's a complete shift in the energy. Stunning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was walking with my son and he's so cute. He was, I said, "Why aren't you looking up and looking at the trees?" He says, "Because the view is better looking down," because his head was down like this as he's walking. I said, "What are you going to do? You're going to get a crick in your neck." And he said, Mom, look down." And I looked down, and because of just that sheen of water, because we had rain earlier in the day, in the certain sections, like not a puddle, but just that sheen of water, it was a mirror.
How observant of your son to notice that.
He could see his face and my face and all of nature behind us.
Wow, he's a sensitive one, huh?
He is.
Runs in the family.
That's a pure spirit, right?
Yeah.
That's a pure, being a pure channel of spirit. So sometimes we say, don't look down, look up. But sometimes we need to look down to see that mirror of the soul.
Nice, nice. And then let's not forget gratitude for instantly uplifting, raising your energy, clearing gunky stuff.
Yes, and sometimes you have to go into that minuscule level of gratitude when you're like, I don't feel gratitude in this moment. It's just too hard. It's too difficult. Maybe someone's been in a car accident, or they have a medical diagnosis that they're very fearful about, or someone close to them is going through illness or preparing to pass. There's divorce. There's so many different events that happen in a person's life, and it's hard to necessarily grasp onto the gratitude. And sometimes it can be, well, I'm just grateful I got to take a breath right now.
That's right. I was just at the Helping Parents Heal conference, and so many parents with children across the veil, we call them shining light parents, were there and feeling the gratitude for each other, for just understanding the journey we're on. There's one shining light parent, and I'm sorry, I can't remember her name right now. She was at a recent retreat that I led, and she started a movement called Just One Little Thing, Jolt. I hope we can look that up and give her credit for this later. But she says that sometimes it's the most minuscule thing that will lift you out of it. Just think of one little thing each day to be grateful for. And one day, the thing she was grateful for was the big dark sunglasses to hide her red eyes from crying. I mean, that puts it in perspective, right? But there is always something to be grateful for. But the more we do that, the more we find bigger things every day.
Yes, it builds. It's Kelly, one of those things that builds.
I'm still trying to get her name out. Guides will give it to me. Yeah.
When it comes to you, that'll be the right moment.
Right.
And so having those little moments that build until we can eventually be grateful for a bigger portion of the day, or a bigger portion of life, and the lessons that seem to be presented to us. And sometimes it's people who come up and they are the helpers to us, that we can be grateful that they showed up in our lives, or the way spirit's coming in around us and being a helper. So you have these opportunities for gratitude, and that purifies yourself. So you're not in that, like you said, gunky, that gunky mode.
As I said, we get gunked up. And it's funny because I often say that we shower almost daily, most of us every day. And so we clean our physical bodies because it's obvious to us that they get a little smelly, dirty. But people don't take the time to regularly clean our energetic field. And that's what a beautiful chakra balancing can do. Kelly Buckley, there's the name.
Oh, Kelly Buckley. And so you can even feel that in that aura as well. As you clear chakras, you can also feel how that's corresponding to the different layers of the aura. And that is the aura helps you interact and interface with planes of existence, with the human beings here on this plane of existence. Yeah. And you won't see things through that murky lens anymore. Sometimes we need a little windshield wiping.
Yeah, that's, in fact, when I first started teaching my Let Your Spirit Soar course, I would talk about the light within us, and we project it outward like we see the world through a lens, and the lens gets dusty. And I used to hand out little dusting cloths as gifts. Everybody left with a dusting cloth to just metaphorically clean that lens regularly. It does get layers. And the beautiful thing is we can use that metaphor to understand why people hurt people. Their lens is so gunked up, they just can't even feel their own light within. So talk about not being a pure channel. For what? For love. It's because it's been so, the gunk, the dirt, the grime in some cases has just built up from being hurt by others in many cases. So we have to do our inner work if we want to be a pure channel.
Absolutely. It's a spiritual unfoldment is the most important thing you can do if you're wanting to develop as a medium or as a spiritual healer or as a soul. That spiritual unfoldment, was always told this by my parents, but also mediumship teachers, that's where it's at, because it has to go hand in hand as you're walking the path. Yeah. That you become more and more aware of that. With that great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. But
And
this is the
that
fringe
means,
benefit of this work. It's a
yeah,
commitment to daily practice and to working with people who are grieving. It's not easy. And yet the fringe benefits to us, if we do the work, are the joy and the peace and that moments like I had yesterday being so knocked off balance are the exception, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
So I liken it to the reason to exercise. The reason they call mediumship a practice, right, is that you are practicing. And so let's say the exercise teacher says, now just lift your foot up so you can practice your balance.
Oh, I did that yesterday with an exercise teacher.
Yes, yes. Lift up
Yeah.
your foot and practice your balance so that when you're thrown off balance, you know the rest of your system knows how to help you. And that's the same energetically for us as we're working through this. So yes, we may feel that we're thrown off balance in that particular moment, but that's all practice. We have to, instead of collapsing under that or feeling surprised by that, we say, yes, we will put ourselves back into balance in this moment.
You know,
And
you speak of that, and I just recently shared that my husband Ty and I had a wonderful experience of going to a Carrie Underwood conference last month. She's a favorite, and what a superstar she is. 15,000 people in a stadium. The energy was off the charts, and I was absolutely high with no drugs, just on the energy from the crowd, from the music, from her presence. And as I was letting myself get sucked into all that energy, I knew, I could hear from my guides, there's going to be payback for this. Because when you swing that far to one side, it has to balance out. And I said, yep, and it'll be worth it. I could have brought myself back in a little bit, but it was just so much fun. And so the next day, it really was like having an energetic hangover. I know you're familiar with this from other things when you present to crowds and when you lead a workshop or a class, when you do too many readings in a row, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So the next day, so what do? Well, I just took care of myself. I didn't beat myself up. It was a conscious choice I made to let myself get manic. and so I didn't overeat the next day, which I wanted to do from the stress of feeling off balance. And it just rested, went for a nice walk in nature, all those things we talked about, did the chakra clearing, and within a day, then right back in balance again. So it's, again, so important to notice when you're off balance, and then you can actually see the cause of it. Where did you swing the other way?
yes, that's a wonderful example. And I like your sharing with us about the energetic hangover, because that does happen if you don't have buffers of time in your schedule. So you say, well, I know this could take a lot energetically, so I'm going to make sure that the next day or the next few hours after that I have this block of time to regulate my system again, to get back into that alignment.
Can I share a story you just reminded me of that I haven't told in years? Before I learned that lesson about expending energy, my very first year of touring, taking the Messages of Hope on the road, we had the Messages of Hope documentary. It's on YouTube now, but it was at that time being shown at film festivals around the country. So my husband and I got in our bus and we went around the country. And 1 week, I scheduled 8 events in 7 days. And by day 7, I suddenly understood why people like Carrie Underwood, not that she had this happen, experience exhaustion. You often hear about celebrities going into the hospital for exhaustion, and you think, what is that all about? What, you get tired? Well, you get exhausted. And I looked at my husband and I said, I cannot present tonight. I am just depleted. And by that time, happily, I had learned the power of energy workers, but I was due to leave and go present to this group. And this was the most special, sacred moment, Willa. My husband's a retired Navy destroyer captain. He's very by the book. He absolutely trusts what I do. He knows it's real, but it's not his thing. And I turned to him and I said, Ty, I need you to channel prana through me, prana being life force energy. And he was such a good husband. He was just like, I'll do whatever you need, Suzanne. Just tell me what to do. And I said, stand behind me. I'll sit in this chair. Just put your hands over my head and just trust that source, God, will funnel the healing energy I need through you. But I need you to be the vessel for that. Speaking of a pure vessel, he was so sweet. He took it seriously. But Willa, the coolest thing, as he's doing it, he said, my hands are getting hot. And oh my God, anybody that's done energy healing knows that's what happened. He actually experienced that prana for himself, and I felt it. I was re-energized. It bonded us in a way that was absolutely sacred. But I went off, and here's the really funny thing. As we get in the car, he turns to me and he said, I don't know if he was serious or not. He said, I always thought prana was a South American flesh-eating fish. I said, I know you're joking. That's piranha. But on the way to this presentation, we needed to stop for dinner, and we decided to have sushi. So we go and we look up where's the nearest sushi bar in Google Maps. And I started laughing out loud. I said, Ty, we have to go. This one's called Piranha Sushi.
Perfect.
It's the way the universe works, right? It's
Yes.
I mean, creative, humorous, and yet what a lesson for all of us that we can all be that pure channel for spirit, even if we don't think we can. His intention was just to be this loving, healing source for somebody he loves. And that's why we all do this work.
Yes. Oh, what a delicious story.
Yeah, how about that?
And I love how the humor merges with that. And
Yeah.
humor can help us to be pure channels of spirit as well. Because if we get too into that serious mode, again, we try to force the energy, we try to control the energy. And spirit wants us to be a bit more lighthearted with the events in our life, and to allow that kind of softening, because it raises the vibration. Laughter is one of those things that raises the vibration.
Well,
Not
I have another one for you then.
in a cruel way, but laughter in a delightful, bubbling way.
You want some more?
Oh, please, more, please.
All right. Well, as I said at the beginning, our topic is how to be a pure channel for spirit, and it doesn't mean we have to be saintly. And I can be saintly at times. When I channel my guide Sanaya, I get out of the way and they come through, and it just, I feel so wonderful. It's blissful. But I can also be very, very human. And you said at the beginning, you told everybody I'm this retired Navy commander and 20 years in the Navy. I don't know if that's to blame or not, but I have this affliction that when I am shocked suddenly, I cannot control the F-bombs that come out of my mouth. And this is, not a good thing for somebody who's a spiritual teacher. And sometimes it'll come out and Ty will look at me and he'll go, spiritual teacher. And we laugh. So I don't hide this fact. I can't hide it because I know at some point it's going to pop out in public. In fact, it did once at a big retreat and we all laughed so hard. But I just got a gift in the mail the other day from somebody who follows my work. And it's sitting right here on my desk. I didn't realize I was going to get a chance to show it. She says, I thought of you that instead of F-bombs, what you need is this. It's a love bomb.
Aww.
If people are listening instead of watching, she crocheted this little black hand grenade with a heart coming out the top. It's a love bomb. She said, Suzanne, you already dropped love bombs all over the place. I just love that. In fact, she saw it and learned to crochet just so she could make that for me. Her name is Suzanne Case. She's a lovely soul.
Oh my goodness, that's very special.
Isn't it funny? But
And
again,
I love the illustration that brings to mind. The image, that
little hearts.
Explosion of love, like
Absolutely.
a cartoon, like a comic.
Yeah. So I actually went to a hypnotherapist to try to stop this uncontrollable but appropriate F-bombs. And it never stopped. I've tried multiple things. I've meditated. I've tried clearing it. And I've finally just accepted. That's, what you were saying. It's just part of my humanity. And it's why we're here, to be human. So, hey, this is what you get. Right.
This is what you get. F-bombs and everything.
Yeah.
And unless you need to maybe carry that around to remind you.
I actually sat on a plane once next to a lovely older woman who was reading a Bible before we took off. And I turned to her and I said, "Madam, I just need to advise you, if we hit turbulence, I cannot be responsible for what comes out of my mouth." Happily, we didn't.
Oh,
But
that's
we
a
digress.
narrow miss. Yes. But I think people need to understand that that is an aspect of people and of how they're dealing with the human events of life.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're using every other word. There's
You
a
know,
judicious use.
That brings up another point. I remember a reading where I tuned into a young boy across the veil, and he used that kind of language all the time. I know you've done readings where you hear that. And sometimes I'll say it once, and then the parent says, "Oh God, yeah, he spoke like that all the time." But then I stop that. I've heard other people that then continue to pepper their readings with that language. And I feel that actually brings the reading down. And our goal is to hold that energy. Once you make the point, they used to talk that way, we don't need to stay in that because it does have an uncomfortable vibe to it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. In fact, I set it up very early on with my spirit guides that, this is my workplace. I don't have to endure that kind of language.
Yeah.
So what happens for me is, and clients that this has happened with their spirit loved ones can attest, it gets censored out. It gets bleeped out.
That's good.
Bleep, 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 bleep. And so I just laugh and laugh because I'm like, nope, you're not going to be allowed to do that to us anymore. And it gets the point across. We don't have to say those words.
Yeah.
There's an energy that's associated with language.
Definitely.
And also with intent, because, that's the thing with spirit. You can even get the nuance of, well, how much of that intent was it? Was it just something that they off the cuff swear? Or is this something that is really, they were upset about something and that's why you have to notice the intent. I've noticed that energy is much more important than actually saying those words.
Right. In the cases when they've used it in my readings, it's to show that was just such a part of their language.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then once they show that, you don't need it anymore.
You don't need it anymore. And it'll keep you in that pure channel space so that you are not going into that distraction mode, because there are plenty of other words in English language to express what's going on, how they're feeling. And it also helps them in spirit to progress beyond that particular vision or facade of themselves here on this earth plane, because we are not stagnant. The spiritual progression is eternal and infinite. So there's always something more to learn and grow and be. And so what I tell people is, well, now they're version 2.0 and we get to interact with version 2.0.
Yeah, I love that.
Interact with that version that, perhaps was unpleasant for us. So we do have that, and that they become more and more into alignment of that pure spirit. And that assists us in our mediumship. As we're becoming and being pure channels of spirit, so are loved ones in spirit. They're working toward those goals as well.
Yeah, very important point.
Yes, indeed. So in terms of being a pure channel of spirit, I know even from the very beginning of becoming certified as a spiritual healer with my church, I could feel a change, an energetic shift or change that occurred in me. There was almost a fountaining of energy that would merge with that divine.
I felt it just now as you do that. You can't help but feel it. You stepped into the power right there.
Yeah, I did. And then that vibratory force moves down through the body into the hands so that you can assist. So with a medium, that energy moves down through the medium, through the words, through the body, through the energy that isn't even about physical touch, but energetic touch with the client or sitter and their loved ones in spirit. So that's where that foundational principle of being in that pure spirit space comes from and cements what we're able to do.
Absolutely. And it's, my my friend, my colleague, my original mentor, Mavis Patilla, is a testament to that power, and that she had to take morphine every day for a broken back that was never healed completely, and multiple other maladies. And yet she found that when she stepped into the power to do a demonstration, to do a reading, there was no pain for at least 20 minutes afterwards, because that power that flows through us when we work is very real, and it is healing energy, and it heals us as we work.
That's true. There's a vicarious healing that occurs. It's kind of like a thrill to do the work with spirit. You can feel that kind of surge of energy that's going through you, the love that that spirit loved one has for the client or sitter. So you can feel that fountaining up through you to them. And that's where it all happens. Yeah. Being that pure channel of spirit means that that love comes through undiluted.
That's
undiluted.
That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you, when you're doing your mediumship work, because you also do channeling work, and being that pure channel for spirit, are there some things other than the chakra clearing and the sage and taking walks in nature that you do to prepare yourself to do that level of work?
Yes, if I could take this opportunity to say that I am going to be doing a live channeling session for charity November 20th. And so right on the homepage of my website, right down under the video near the top, is a little thumbnail for more information on that. We're raising money to send kids with cancer to camps. It's just a lovely, lovely cause. To prepare myself to channel, by all means, I do not to have any wine beforehand. I just make sure I don't eat a heavy meal. I balance my chakras. I hold the clearest intention that I will be present for spirit, and just start talking to my guides early. There's not a whole lot other than the day-to-day doing exactly what we've been talking about during this hour. But one time when I was preparing to do a channeling session just in my home for a group that gathered weekly to help me develop that channeling ability, I asked the guides to step in. Even before we started, I had been just doing a nice little building the power practice of clearing the chakras and visualizing that energy building, thinking thoughts of gratitude, all those things we've been talking about. And I went back into the living room to wait for the guests to arrive. And my dog, Rudy, jumped out of his bed, jumped onto my lap, and started looking around the room. It was so clear that they were gathering. Yeah, very cool.
Allowing yourself to expand. So there's an internal vibratory force that's occurring, but there's also that connection point through the energetic channels and through the aura that helps you connect externally to spirit. And that's where that connection can come from, that pure intention. And then as you're coming down off of channeling, what do you do then?
I bring my chakras back in, Willa. Many people don't talk about this. They don't realize that we can get overextended, not just blocked. Everybody talks about blocks and constriction, but after a channeling session, I'll be in the car and Ty says, "You need to bring your chakras back in." So he knows the drill. And it just takes me a couple minutes. I literally use my hands, and it's like sweeping the aura back in. I go through each of the 7 chakras, and I just visualize them using their innate intelligence to come into perfect balance and alignment with each other. By the time I get down through the base chakra, just take a nice deep breath, and I'm back into human mode.
Yeah, I think that's a really important aspect of this, so that people understand, yes, there's that preparatory work, but there's also the after work. And yes, with chakras, if they become overextended, open to such a high degree, it can be painful for a sensitive.
I get nauseous. I get a headache, restless, can't sleep. Anybody who can't sleep at night, just imagine a nice warm blanket of soothing energy coming down above you and slowly, slowly, slowly anesthetizing each of the chakras. You'll probably be asleep before you even get to the solar plexus if you try that method.
In some ways, that's a method, I believe, that Navy SEALs use to fall asleep very quickly.
Is that right?
They don't say chakras, but the idea of you start at the top and you just start to relax your body. And so you could feel the energy starting to just, soothe. And then usually by the time somebody gets here, they don't even get to their feet because they're already
Yeah. Oh, no.
asleep.
That's what I'm saying. I can't remember getting there because it worked so well.
Yes.
So try it.
Yes, it's better than counting sheep.
Oh, way better. Yeah.
So there is work in that sense of being a pure channel of spirit. It's not that you need to be open 100% of the time. 24/7 would be unhealthy for anyone. And so being a pure channel of spirit doesn't mean that you have your on switch locked in position, duct taped open here, because that would make you not have balance in the rest of your life.
Right.
And so I've always encouraged people that, yes, you can turn off, you switch for a while, it's you need your downtime, you need your time to just be human, and talking to spirit 24/7 would be unhealthy because you wouldn't be interacting with your loved ones here on the earth plane. Having a true life is what we signed up to do.
That's right. My guides shut me off. They control the switch. I would love to be more open when I'm not doing readings, but they say, we know you. I would want to be working all the time. And that balance is so important. In fact, I'm going kayaking this afternoon in nature, and I can't wait for that balance.
Oh, yes. That's one of my favorite things to do here. Casadega Lake is perfect for that. A lot of times, if it's like a mirror, it's like just floating with glass and on the glass, and you could hear all the little drips of water, and it's just so peaceful. So what a great journey you'll be on this afternoon. I'll be thinking about you. And so
you know what, Willa, even when I'm turned off, as far as mediumship, I'm still always so aware of the guides around me. The last time I had a really magical moment kayaking, I was just out there being very present. And I just said to the guides, show me how unreal this human reality is. Now, where did that thought come from? I know it came from my guides, actually, because we paddled back to shore. I pulled my kayak out of the water. It's a beautiful kayak that we got secondhand recently. And this woman came up to me and she said, that's my kayak. I bought the kayak an hour away from here, and there was the owner of this kayak. That was like spirit saying, we know you're going to run into her on the shore. So ask the question now, and we'll have a wonderful, magical moment. We'll show you how unreal this is as the web reveals itself.
Oh, it does. It does reveal itself that we have these moments that you can feel how much there's an orchestration of things that are going behind the scenes.
Yes.
And that is helping us to connect and network with people here on the earth plane, and also in the so-called unseen world of spirit. And so there's a lot that's happening on those levels that we have to move into faith and trust about. And sometimes we have those little testing moments that we want to do, but it's ultimately having that awareness that, of course, these things are going to happen. This is what's truly normal.
That's right. And I just held my finger up because my guides just interrupted and they said, you must explain unreal. And we don't want anybody to think that this reality is not real. Unreal in this case means not the only reality. They don't want us to think that this human world is all there is. So that was the meaning of the question. Show me how unreal is the thought that this is the only reality. That thought, this is an illusion, drives people crazy, because when somebody dies, somebody gets hurt, and we think, how can you call this an illusion? I hurt. I'm in pain. This grief is real. And it is. But to come to know by being that pure channel that there is a greater reality, and this is nested within it, and that we're already whole and our loved ones are still here, that's the reality we want everybody to know about.
Yes. And I'm glad that you clarified that for folks, because that is an important discernment energetically for people. Yes. And to understand that there are layers of experience and existence that are going on simultaneously. And a lot of what I would consider unreal aspects aren't the concepts of suffering that we put ourselves through. As you said, you want to reframe and get rid of the word negative and use uncomfortable. Well, sometimes things aren't just uncomfortable, they're gosh darn painful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Unpleasant.
Oh,
Mhm.
how you say that's not real? How do you, yeah. So I'm glad that you clarified that. It's an important distinction
Yes.
that must be made. And in terms of keeping ourselves attuned to that greater love, that spirit, that infinite intelligence that's there, it does come to us to be in gratitude, even if it's small things, like we said earlier. It does help us to take the walks in nature and connect with something that's outside of ourselves, outside of the box of our homes, right? Something that is bigger than, more vast. We need to have that connection with something that's more than us. And by being that pure channel of spirit, we are knowing we're connected to the web of all existence.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Any last thoughts before we close today?
I'd just like to end with what, I want to tell you big news. You're probably familiar with the daily messages that I get from my guide Sinai, and I put them out on at dailyway.org. Well, just this week on iPhones through Apple and soon on Android, we have the Awakened Way app with 4,500 of the daily messages and a little oracle button where you can see which message you need today in addition to the daily message, and all kinds of goodies on there. It's completely free. And I'm just thrilled that we have something really positive for people to read every day on their phone. But when you ask what I wanted to end with, it is, by the way, they just find that by going to the App Store and looking up either my name, Suzanne Giesemann, or Awakened Way.
Beautiful.
Like I said, soon on Android. But I wanted to end today, as you asked, with just the phrase that my guides end almost every Daily Way message with. And that is, you are so very loved. We don't hear that enough. We don't say it enough to people. There is nothing that will clear out the gunk faster than hearing that and taking it on board and knowing it as truth. We are loved by Source because we are part of that Source, and we are part of this wholeness that is made of loving beings. Love is the creative healing force of the universe. And as we come to know that, we become those pure vessels.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, absolutely. It's been wonderful to have you here, Suzanne. And you can check out things on Suzanne Giesemann's website, SuzanneGiesemann.com. So you can find her there, along with a lot of the other events and information about this wonderful app that she started as well. And I know that you do such great work, and we appreciate you being here. And yes, if anybody's interested in the upcoming classes, the first one starts tomorrow. So you're going to want to check out willawhite.com if you're wanting to be part of the mediumship development circles that are here in November. All right, everyone, thanks for being here today, and we'll see you next week on Wednesdays with Willa. My guest will be Shannon Taggart, and we will be talking about what's something called ITC, which is instrumental transcommunication. So I'll see you next week here, same time, same place, Willa White Medium on Facebook. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Bye-bye.